Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Northern Showcase. We look forward to spending the next hour with you. I'm Penny Olorenshaw, a former stage manager, now a Webflow developer in Trenton, Ontario, and I handle communications for NoCode North.
Hey, I'm Maggie Monceau. I'm a Webflow developer based in Toronto with a background in film and television. In our NoCode North group, I take care of our designs and our gather space.
And I'm Jeremy LaRue, a low-code and no-code developer from Vancouver. And on the NoCode North team, I'm the resident automations guy and the runner of the streams.
Our mission at NoCode North is twofold. First, to build a community of Canadian Webflowers and no-code enthusiasts. And second, to showcase Canadian talent to the rest of the world. We meet Fridays at noon Eastern in the Lodge, our gather space. And once a month, we host the Northern Showcase here on our YouTube channel. And I am popping in to see who's in the chat so far. And I see Natasha. I think Natasha might have a connection to today's guest because I see some starry eyes there. So we look forward to hearing more about that a little later on. And let's just get right underway.
On today's Northern Showcase. Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something else?
Nope. Oh, okay. I suppose I do. I could say if you have questions for our guest, please put them in the chat and we'll either ask them during the interview or at the end. Now, Maggie.
On today's Northern Showcase, we're meeting Patrick Corsetti. Patrick is one of NoCode North's earliest members who also recently started the NoCode Club, spelled KNOW, for Webflow developers to foster growth and accountability while learning to enhance their skill set with code. He's played pivotal roles in projects ranging from simple marketing sites to large international launches, including the launch of Genesis Canada's website while working as a lead developer for an agency. An avid problem solver, he eagerly pushes the limits of Webflow and low-code and helps others do the same. Please help us welcome Patrick.
Hey, Patrick.
Hey, hi, Patrick.
Everybody. Thank you for the intro, Maggie. It was awesome.
That was written by Jeremy, but yeah, it was one of the most flattering for one of our, you know.
One of our OG members.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. I don't know if you guys know, but Maggie's actually the reason why I came into the NoCode Club NoCode North in the first place. I tried to hire her.
Origin story.
Yeah. I tried to hire her, and then we got on a call. She's like, "I'm actually really busy right now, but you should check out this club that we're starting." And
I don't know why I knew when you emailed me, I knew that didn't really have any interest in taking a job, but that I would take the interview anyways because you were saying that you didn't know anyone in the web or like the no code space. So I figured maybe we'll recruit some people that way. And it was the start of No Code North too, so we didn't have a lot of members. So I had to like pull them off the street. But yeah, that was a good one.
100%. I'm so grateful to be part of the community too. Like it's really opened my eyes to like all of the, different branches of the Webflow community. And obviously we're so like positive and Canadian in here. Like it's awesome.
Well, and we're grateful to have you here because you've been one of the most active members and you're always on the streams asking questions. And so now we get to turn the tables on you a little bit.
Can't wait.
All right.
So where is, we kind of start with this all the time. Like, where in Canada are you, and where is that in relation to where people might know? I guess.
Yes.
So you're from Bolton. So where is Bolton?
I'm from Bolton. Bolton's about half hour north of Toronto, so not too far outside of like main hub in Ontario here. Yeah, Bolton's just like a small town. I've lived here for like the last 25 years, I think 24 years since 2000. So been here for a while now. Yeah.
I looked at the map. Is there like lots of like nature walking trails and stuff around where you're at, or?
There is, but it's also really close to like a lot of the walking trails are really intertwined with like the Humber River in our area, and the Humber River is this massive river that spans a big part of like southern Ontario. So it can get actually really hard to hike any of those trails, because if it rains like even a little, it's like muddy for weeks. But we've obviously like we've made the mistake of going in there with our little tiny dog who gets stuck in the mud almost instantly.
I mean, this one.
That's Carlos and his sunglasses. Yeah, because it was like 18 degrees like 2 days ago, which was crazy for March. So we had to go out for a little walk with his sunglasses on.
That's awesome.
I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know there was such a thing as.
Yeah,
Puppy
he's got like, he's really young. He's only 4, but he's got like a cataract in one of his eyes, and it's not like it's a hereditary thing though, so it's not like it's not hurting him, but we don't want it to get any worse. So now he's got like sunglasses, he's got like purple goggles, he's got orange, like the cool classic, like, you know, super reflective ones. He's got more swag on the walks than I do.
And are these sunglasses that are specifically designed for dogs, or are they like kids sunglasses?
No, they're sunglasses for dogs. They're called I can't remember. They're like not doggles,
okay. They're
or
not
something. Even though
they're not
they should have
sponsoring the
been
stream,
doggles.
so
right. Yummy says doggles.
They should have been doggles, but no, they're Rec Specs, not sponsored. They should sponsor me.
Okay.
They're really cool. Rec Specs, yeah.
We'll reach out to them and see if they want to sponsor the Northern Showcase.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
Somebody in the chat has actually said, X Adam has said, same stories for my dog too. So like I'd never even really thought about that being an issue for dogs.
It was. I think like poodles, he's a Schnauzer poodle, so I think poodles have like inherently can have a lot of, you know, health issues, and I don't know.
Right.
But he's cute still. I'll keep him.
Okay. Excellent. Well, Jeremy, do you want to take it away here? And
let's take her away.
All right.
There we go. So I guess we're learning all about you today. So there's very little online actually about you. You are, as you say, you're a bit of an internet recluse.
Yes,
so
as surprising as that is for someone who works on the internet. Yeah, definitely a little bit of a social media recluse. Yeah, 100%.
But you know, that's I guess so. A lot of the stuff is because we've gotten to know each other. So I've gotten to get to know you and be able to find out, and I'm really excited for other people to find out. So in your LinkedIn, because that's where we go when we're looking for information. So you started in the University of Toronto in architecture. Yes.
I really, really love architecture. My last year of high school, I had like such a passion for it. Really loved like the ideas behind, you know, designing sustainable homes specifically. I always liked homes and stuff, but designing sustainable buildings in general. And I got into U of T for architecture, and I was studying architecture there for 2 years before I eventually got a summer internship, a summer job as a graphic designer, and then my architecture dreams just got pushed aside almost instantly. I didn't continue with it, but I continued with graphic design, and that kind of led into more more web design work eventually. But I think what drew me into architecture in the first place was like a lot of the same principles that made me really interested in graphic design, was just like the beauty of creating something so like grand. I really love like the artistic aspect of it. Like even, you know, outside of architecture in high school and stuff, I was always in all the art classes and everything, and I just never really knew how to make money at it. And then I thought, okay, architecture, kind of bridging the gap here. You know, you always hear the starving artist, and I was like, okay, so maybe I can be an architect. But what was it that? So how did the internship, I guess, for the graphic design happen, and like how did that shift things? Like, because it like how did it shift things for you? Like what clicked? So I did take graphic design courses in high school too, but then after I started taking like architecture and more like structural kind of design courses, that kind of fell to the side. But then yeah, like one summer I was looking for a job, and it was actually at a print shop, and my friend was there that day, and he was like, oh, it was so funny. He was like, their graphic designer just like quit. He's like, don't you do art? And I was like, yeah, I used to. Like, let me go check it out. And so that same day I went by. He was like, and then, you know, the owner was like, do you have a portfolio? Do you have a resume? I was like, nope, but I do graphic design. He's like, cool. Do you know how to use like Illustrator and Photoshop? And I was like, yeah. He's like, hey, show up tomorrow. Let's do this. So yeah, I just brought everything back, and then just doing like print in a more like print and design in more of, you know, a commercial setting was like, it was really cool. It wasn't just, you know, creating like digital art in art class kind of thing. It was actually like, it had a purpose behind it. And it was always fun for me. Like we used to, you know, it was a print shop, so we did a lot of signage and vehicle wraps and ad campaigns and booklets and stuff. And it was always so cool. Like I always love this part where you could have something at the end of the project, and it was like, you know, a tangible thing, or you could take a picture of it, or you could, I still do it. My wife, I don't know if I bother anybody with it, but whenever my wife and I are driving around, I'll be like, hey, I wrapped that truck, or hey, I did that design for that billboard. And so I always love that aspect of, you know, something like some kind of product at the end of, you know, a job or whatever, and then they paid you for it, and then you could see it out in the world. So yeah, I think, and it's kind of why I like architecture as well, is like kind of, you know, you design this building and then it's built, right? So now this was like, oh cool, I get to be artistic and design this poster, and it's printed up at the hockey rink or something, right? It was just a cool parallel that I was drawing there.
That is awesome. Yeah. And so did you started with working with in the sign, was it a sign and print shop, right? Is that what? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how did that lead to you? Because you started your own thing after that point, or how did this all happen?
Yeah. So I worked at the print shop for like a number of years. And as I was working there, I was also I was doing like some photography and some actually social media work at that point. Like I would do photography for like contractors and stuff, of like, you know, custom built homes. We would go and do photography, and then they would post them on the social media. I'd come up with social media plans, stuff like that. And actually, so then it was with my wife, which was my girlfriend at the time, and then also another friend, Adrienne, and we started up our own company because we were like, hey, you know, they're both designers, and we were like, we can, you know, do branding and social media, and then I can do photography, and we can, you know, do cool campaigns. And then that was like a kind of our side hustle for a bit. And I don't know if we ever really went anywhere, because we spent most of our meetings just talking about like trying to come up with a name. Like that was the solid like first 5 or 6 meetings, I think, was just, so what should our name be? And then what should our brand look like? Right. And then it just went on and on. We had like a couple clients. And then at some point it was like, oh, maybe we should do a website. I was like, oh, Pat, can you do a website? I was like, I don't know if I can do a website. Like, let's try. And that led to my first website, which was done in Adobe Muse, and it was an interesting website. Adobe Muse, I could definitely see why Adobe retired that platform, because it wasn't the best. But it was interesting. I'll just leave it at that. I won't talk anymore about it. It was interesting. I
feel like we need to find it on the Wayback Machine or something.
No, we 100% shouldn't. And there's a reason why I didn't tell you what it was called, because I don't want that to be brought up 100%. Yeah, no, we're going to leave that. Okay, it'll be a challenge. If someone can find it, I don't know what you'll get. You'll get a Pokemon card. No, I'm just kidding. I won't get that.
That's funny.
So we eventually all got into, we all got more into, our own jobs. So that eventually kind of fizzled, but I kept doing more like websites on the side, like freelancing, as I progressed through a couple other jobs.
And were you using Adobe Muse that entire time then, or?
No, after the first project with Adobe Muse, it was done. That was it. I never opened it again. I think I uninstalled it as soon as I published the website. And then changes afterwards. Yeah, I don't even know if we made changes afterwards. It was just like, yeah, it's done. No, I started freelancing for another client after, and they already had a Webflow site in place, and that was actually kind of how I got introduced to it. And he was looking for, like, he had a Webflow developer, but he was like he was actual, not actual. He was like a more traditional developer, and he used Webflow for the front end so that the client could easily make changes, but the client didn't really want to touch it that much. So they were like, hey, can you just make the front end changes? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And it was so cool seeing that website, because it was like OG Webflow, like so long ago, like 8 years ago now. But he had so much custom code and functionality like hacked into the site that I didn't even like. It's still things that we think are cool now, right? And he had it all back then. He was definitely someone I wish I connected with, but I don't even think I ever knew who he was. I just got handed the Webflow site after the fact, and it was just like a silhouette of him in my mind. It was like, oh my goodness, look at this awesome developer that he did, and he built this in Webflow. And then opened my eyes. Webflow ever since then.
Yeah, that was your Webflow aha. It was actually somebody getting introduced to it through a job. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then I guess after that, it's just been Webflow nonstop since that point.
I actually so after I left the print shop, I actually started working for a promotional company, and it was still not a web design role. It was a graphic design role again, but it was like a senior graphic design role. And I was doing a lot more print and promotional campaigns and ad campaigns and marketing products and all that stuff. And I was just like leading the design there. And I was there for, I think, 3 or 4 years too. And I was still just like, web stuff was still like my freelance stuff on the side. But I was actually really focused on the graphic design. And I think it wasn't until I didn't bring web design back into my full-time job until one of our clients had a problem with their WordPress site. And my boss was like, can we help them with this WordPress site? And I was like, probably, like, maybe. I was like, I can take a look at it. And I had been doing all this Webflow work on the side. And I tried to log into the WordPress site, and it had been hacked through some vulnerability in a plugin. And the whole site had basically been like taken over, and all they had access to was the domain. Like, they deleted all the backups and everything. So I was like, they were like, okay, this Friday the client calls us, and there was like, Monday we need the site back. So I was like, okay, if you want to like some overtime, I can get this fixed over the weekend. And he was like, okay, whatever it takes. And I rebuilt the entire site in Webflow over the weekend. And then we put it live on Monday, and the client didn't even notice. And then that was how I started bringing web back into that role. I did a couple more websites for that company during like my last year there, and then COVID hit, and work like slowed to like a grinding halt. So then I started freelancing way more, and that actually led to my last like major role, which was as the lead developer for an agency here in Toronto. And it was a really similar problem. Like, my wife was actually doing some work for them as a designer, and they had a problem with the website, and they couldn't get it updated, and it was WordPress, and they're having all these problems with it. And my wife was just like, hey, my husband's a developer. Like, do you want him to take a look at it? And yeah, of course, 100%. Jumped into the site. We're like, hey, we have a week to fix this. I don't care what you have to do, but whatever. You got 40 hours. I was like, sick. Let me rebuild in Webflow. And the owner was like, what's Webflow? I was like, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It'll be great. And on Friday, the website launched. The client didn't even notice that the site was migrated to Webflow. And the owner offered me a job on the spot. She was like, yep, you want to do all the websites from now on? So that was, and then that led to a couple of years of doing that, like, in that role.
That's really cool. And so, yeah, I think there is a common thing. Adam is saying that the main reason I stopped using WordPress was discovered Webflow back in 2017, and it completely changed my world. But I think what they're referring to is like the plugin vulnerabilities is actually quite. It was something I noticed when I was working WordPress as well, and it's one of those things where it's cool how you could it's still 40 hours, but you could actually do that in a weekend as far as like doing a site migration or something like that. Were these large, did they have like large like CMS stuff that you had to transfer over, or not so much of that?
Basically no CMS at all. I actually introduced CMS systems into both of them. The first one was like the first like secret migration. That's why I started calling them my secret migrations. The first one was for a restaurant, and I updated the CMS so that they could like easily do menu items and stuff, like make changes on their own. The second one was for a real estate developer, and actually, you know what? I tried to introduce CMS to that, but they were hosting it externally. And we didn't want to like shake too many trees because we didn't actually tell them we moved it to Webflow. So that one, it had CMS, but it was just for us internally. Like we still just pushed it to like a different server. Like we exported the code. But yeah, like WordPress is great and it definitely like has its uses. But I find that when you start getting like all of these plugins installed, it creates an environment, right? And then it's much harder for a developer to come into the environment and not kind of know what's going on. And it's the same way, like, you know, one developer might not touch another developer's code because they don't want to go in and break something and touch it. But with Webflow, it's kind of hard because, you know, the development environment is kind of standardized, and it's easy to go in if it was, you know, kind of built in a decent way structurally to see, you know, who made changes, why they made changes, where they are, kind of stuff, and the structure of the page without damaging it too much, hopefully.
This is Andy's like every WordPress site handoff becomes a rebuild.
That's actually, it's how it went for like 6 months or so at when I started at the agency. It was at the last agency I was at. It was really we would just translate everything into Webflow sites, and all we ever saw was, you know, benefits from SEO and page load and all that stuff. So, but yeah, when it's I see when it's passed between developers, yeah, 100%. It's because you're moving into a new environment, right? It could even be the same as between moving from Framer to Webflow or Webflow to something else, right? It's just a different environment.
Yeah, it's it's cool that I like the term secret migrations.
It's a new,
the client doesn't
service,
know,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's a new service I offer, is secret migrations, but you have to figure out how to contact me and ask for it. It's not a public service. It's a secret. It's a secret nested in a secret. That's
awesome. And so I guess in all of your work with the different agencies, like you started out in graphic design, and you know, you've shifted quite considerably to kind of going in pretty heavy into like the development end of things. How did that kind of come about? Was that like a necessity from like the job standpoint, or your own curiosity, or where?
I guess it's kind of a mix of both. I have this problem where if I'm really committed to a project and I like it, I basically don't say no to anything. So if you're like, is this possible? 100% it's possible. Why not? Like, why isn't it possible? And then after I say it, like the words come out of my mouth and I'm thinking like, what did I just agree to? Like, is it possible? How do I actually do this? And I really enjoy like learning new things. Like I love falling into rabbit holes all the time. And so I would, you know, say yes to projects or like some crazy like cool integration or something, and then be like, okay, now let's figure out how to do this. And it was always important to like obviously scope for, you know, a discovery period, but I got into a pretty good groove of being able to definitively say like in that scope period whether something was really going to be doable or not, or and then kind of how to approach it. And so in that sense it did become necessity at the jobs I was at, where it was like, okay, let's push the envelope, like let's do something new, let's change the game up a little bit, and you know, how can we get there? And at first it was like really abusing, like not abusing, but like really pushing Webflow, like really pushing it. And then I started discovering like, you know, Timothy Ricks's videos, and then his jQuery, his jQuery builder, and I was like, this unlocked a whole new world of like, you know, JavaScript that I didn't really understand at the time. And then CSS animations came from the jQuery builder, and then like every element on my page had a okay, on click, on hover, whatever, right? And towards the end of my last job, I started getting to a point where like we were building full applications, and Wiz was still kind of new. So some stuff was in Wiz, some stuff wasn't. And I would spend probably like more time Googling how to do something than building stuff. And I've come now to discover that that's kind of how development works when you're unfamiliar with a topic, or even sometimes when you're familiar with a topic and you have a bug or error somewhere. Yeah, I actually decided to, like, when I left, I decided to take time off and just learn. And I feel like now my eyes are much more like are open to a much wider world, right? Like I learned a lot of JavaScript on the job. And then I chose to like try to learn even more and try to like refine my knowledge. And what I discovered was that it's like there's so more comes out every day than I can possibly like learn in a day. So I have like a much healthier respect for JavaScript now than when I left. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just take a couple months off, learn the entire JavaScript, become a master, and then bam, right, update the resume. But I have a much healthier respect for JavaScript now. But then I also guess I have a much wider skill set, but also like scope of what's possible. Like now it's even worse. Now it's like I don't even think about if it's possible. I'm not like, yeah, 100% it's possible. I might not know how to do it, but it's possible, right?
Some way it is, right? For these things, I think it's interesting that you talk about. What I find interesting about the space is that you're learning certain bits. Like, you don't have to be a master at JavaScript to do well with like expanding the potential of even web app development. And like, you don't have to be the master of it. It helps to know more of it. But it's almost understanding how those things all work together, which is almost the piece of the puzzle as well. So how did you get into like the API? Like, because the thing we haven't like touched on is like you have connecting pieces to things. It's not just the JavaScript. It's like now you're connecting this to this, and we're using APIs. So
yes.
How did you get into learning about that?
That end of it was actually something I learned before the JavaScript part. As like weird as that sounds, I've always kind of had, and this goes back to, when I was really interested in graphic design in high school and stuff. My dad had a very like technical role, and he would always bring home computers. At one point he had like a whole server rack in the basement. Like it was awesome. And so I became really in love with Linux and server management, and I eventually started hosting my own server. So like under my desk there's a little mini stack of Raspberry Pis that are hosted in a server, and then are hosting a server, and then I have like another whole fire trap that's like outside my apartment that's hosting another like big server. And I working with servers like that, you kind of get an idea of like, well, it depends on the software that's running on it too, but the software that I'm mostly running and serving content from, and the services that I'm using on the servers, they generally have some kind of application interface or like API that I would have to access and use to kind of get something to go further. So that stuff would start off as a hobby, and it'd be like I had an automation server running in my house, and it'd be like, okay, for example, if I walk in the front door, then turn on all the lights. But it's like, okay, before Apple and all the automated home devices, it was like, how can I do this, right? So I would start learning about sending messages between all these different programs like way back before, and then it became useful almost instantly when it was like, okay, like we want to build an application that automatically triggers email journeys and does XYZ. And it was like, okay, sick. Let me spin up an automation server. And it was like, how do you know how to do and spin up an automation server? It's like, oh, well, for fun, I practice that. Don't you relax by sitting in front of like a Linux terminal, like not understanding what half the commands mean? No, just me. I don't know.
A lot of what you do is like you don't seem to be afraid to like dive in and just try. Like I think sometimes we have this fear of, and I think people, especially sometimes with code, it like feels so complicated and so overwhelming, and we feel like we're going to screw something like horribly up or something. And it's kind of not the case, because you can just delete the thing or like comment it out.
The biggest revelation I ever made in that like space was realizing that when someone goes someone goes and tells you to like, oh, install this off of GitHub, it's literally downloading a folder and putting it somewhere where your computer can see it. Like, that's what installing a program does. And if you want to remove the program, you can go and remove the folder. Like, there's a couple more steps in there, but that's essentially what it is. And then I was like, oh, so GitHub is basically just a big file system? And it was like, yeah. And I was like, holy crap. Like, it was like a light bulb moment where I was like, why am I scared of this? I remember like when I decided, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a developer. I'm gonna commit to this. And I took an old laptop out and I installed like an operating system on it so that I would have a test environment to do stuff on. And I remember thinking, I was like, why did I just waste a whole day setting up this laptop that's like 10 years old for development when I have like a brand new computer sitting here that's way faster, just because I was scared of ruining my new computer, right? But I also think that that's like such an important part of, like building anything, is realizing how to fix it if it breaks, right? I mean, if you just try to build stuff and fingers crossed it works out well, our job dealing with clients is like 90% of the time they're going to use it different than you planned in your head, right? So you got to be able to anticipate the error cases, and fix the problem after. Otherwise you get stuck in just this one use case is possible and that's all you can use it for, right? It opens up like a whole new world of, okay, try doing that thing. If it breaks, we'll fix it, and then we'll correct it, right? So you got to be able to fail and fix it.
Yeah, that's very cool. One of your side projects, one of your many rabbit holes, is we call them, is Flowdeck. What is Flowdeck?
So Flowdeck, I have it here. It's not plugged in right now, but so Flowdeck is, I have this like pair of stream decks. This is actually just 2 stream decks with this cool 3D printed stand I got on Etsy. But it is an idea of like a way to interface with Webflow, but like visually, right? Like Webflow is a visual builder for CSS and HTML, and so I was like, hey, I want like a visual builder for that. I want to just be able to click a button on my stream deck while I'm in the canvas and it just drops elements in. And I started this kind of like with the advent of Client First being released, because I was using like Client First like nonstop. I was so in love with the idea of, I still am in love with the idea of like a framework for Webflow. And that's actually like how I discovered FinSuite all. I was just at my job like Googling one day. I was like, there's got to be a better way to name stuff in Webflow. And then Client First was like being released that day. And it was the day I was Googling it, and it was like, oh yeah, join the live stream. And I was like, okay, this must be old. And I clicked it, and like Joe appears on the screen like 20 seconds later, right? So it was kind of like very serendipitous. But I really, really love like Client First from day one, and all the other frameworks that have come because of it, right? Like have been such a game changer for building. But I would find myself like often like in the structure, like there's a lot of structure to Client First, right? So I'd be like, okay, I got to put the div in, and then put this div in, and then put this section, and then name that section. And then all my sections kind of have to be the same names, and I want to use folders correctly. So I was like, hey, let me automate this, right? So yeah, I would have it set up, and you would kind of click a button, drop in your page folder structure, right? Or your main page structure. Awesome. Just saved me like 40 clicks. Then it was like, okay, I have a div on the page. It's got a folder. It's got a name. I don't want to have to like retype the name every time. So I was like, let me make another button. I can click the button, and it'll grab the current class, grab the class on the selected element, look what the class is called, copy back to like the underscore, create a new element, paste it back in as a new class, and then center your cursor there so you could start typing, right? And it was just saving me like so much time at work. So I started creating like, I was like, let me refine this. And it's still something I'm working on, because I got a little busy, but also like a lot of the frameworks changed, and then there was like variables that came out, and then that changed it again. Yeah, it's currently it's like Stream Deck profiles, and I have them hosted up on a GitHub repo, so you can go and download them if you want to try it out, and let me know all the bugs that are there. Yeah, it's just like an automated platform for building in Webflow, I guess. For building, yeah, automated platform for building. It's a visual builder for your visual builder. I'll leave it at that.
A visual builder for your visual builder. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so I guess tying into, like, you have so much knowledge, and actually I think just an excitement about like the whole learning thing. You started recently the No Code Club, and it's once a month now in the lodge. And so how did that, like, you had this idea for a while, and how did that come about? Like, what was the impetus for that?
Yeah, so as I took some time off, and I was focusing more on learning, and I started like answering more of the questions that I was having before, right? And I started noticing that like a lot of my Webflow friends and in the community and stuff, they would be asking questions, like the same questions that I was having, but now I'd be able to like help and jump in and answer, right? And then we would talk more, and they'd be like, "Oh, did you buy Jonas's course? Like I've been meaning to like jump in and try it and jump in and learn, right?" And I was like, I kept hearing that constantly. I was like, "Oh, I found this new YouTube course. I wanted to try it," or I'm trying to learn this new principle, but I don't have time for it. And when I took time off and I had time for it, I could focus on it. But now it made me want to like come up with some kind of way that I could help my friends, hold them accountable, learn some more, help some more. So I found this really cool club called the Code Book Club, and it's run by a YouTuber and she's a developer, Madison Kana. And it was like every month they were actually reading coding books, and they were going through like principles and talking about it. But then they would also every month they would go through like a problem, and I was like, hey, perfect, bring this, do it in Webflow. Like they were pretty advanced at that point. I was like, let's bring it back to the beginning. Let's focus on some concepts, like focus on some Webflow specific concepts, like and just maybe a little bit of a smaller community, so it feels less like an echo chamber and more like somewhere where you can trust someone to hold you accountable for something. And so yeah, I really like the idea of like community support when you're learning something. Like it makes you feel less alone and less like, you know, I'm just sitting here by myself looking at this video for whatever 5 hours tonight or something, right? It's like, okay, I'm learning this, Patrick's learning this, Jeremy's learning this, and you know, we can all kind of grow together. And then I like jumping in there too and helping, because I feel like that's one of the main ways that I actually learn, like personally, is help. Like I reinforce my knowledge by kind of saying it out loud, like teaching it to other people, right? Because then I can hear all the gaps in my knowledge, like when the words come out of my mouth, right? So it's like, okay, you know, I didn't know how to answer that question. Let me go figure it out, right? Like try to learn some more.
Yeah, and so how is the, I guess for people that don't know about it, like we just get, I know it's an accountability group, and we just kind of said it's like once a month, but like, just can you expand a little bit on it, just so if people are interested, they want to check it out?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it is primarily an accountability group. Well, we meet once a month in No Code North in the beautiful Gather space, and if you don't know where to start, I've also put together a list of resources, and I'm kind of following a roadmap. It's not something, I didn't try to reinvent the wheel. It's like a pretty open roadmap, but of just like some JavaScript concepts and resources that go along with them. And every month we kind of push that ticker forward, to a new topic, and we can discuss the new topic. We can solve some problems about it. And it doesn't feel as overwhelming, right? Like if I just told you one day, go out and learn JavaScript, it's like, okay, like where do I even start? So you can go to knowcode.club, and you can look at the topics, and you can kind of follow a roadmap that's got specific resources pinned there. It's kind of like I put blinders on you a little bit just at the start, so that you can kind of stay focused and actually, try to achieve some of your goals. But and then as that expands, you can always expand your learning and kind of target whatever you want to. But I think it's going to grow into a much cooler much cooler place to, what am I trying to say? A much cooler place to learn together, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so you have a bit of experience with that because, like, you've been helping out in Webbay, Keegan's Discord, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Keegan Webbay he's in the process of like building out his own like JavaScript for Webflow course, and that kind of ties back into what you were saying before, Jeremy, where it's like you don't need to know everything to get started with, JavaScript and Webflow. And I think Keegan does such a good job of trying not to sweat like all of the tiny details that you might not be relevant to you. He focuses on things that are like super applicable to like Webflow builds, and then he follows it up with really great like clonables and projects and things that you can achieve in Webflow, so you can see like how you're applying that knowledge. And I found out about his course. I jumped into it because I really love the idea behind it. Courses are like super informative. The projects are really fun. And I wanted to like be more of a part of his community because I really, enjoyed that style of learning. And I started answering. It started off just for fun, but I think it was like, Friday night. And if you guys want to know about my social life, on Friday night, I was like, I think it'd be fun to just answer random questions in a Discord channel. But yeah, I just started trying to help whoever was like kind of asking questions. And it was a chance for me to practice more of my JavaScript and Webflow as well. And yeah, then he just recently went on this amazing vacation and like hike across Nepal. And so he sent me a message. He was like, hey, you've already been answering questions, so like while I'm gone, do you want to take over some of the support for the Discord group? And I was like, yeah, 100%, love to work with him. And yeah, so if you were part of his community for the last couple of weeks, you would have been getting some answers by me. And I was unofficially calling myself Side Bay. I don't think Keegan like really like that, so he didn't like give me my own like channel like title or anything. So I was unofficially Side Bay. But and then like, so it was really cool though, because someone asked such an awesome question. It was really funny. They found one of his old clonables, and it was an asteroid game, right? You had your little cursor in the center of the screen, and then you could click and it would shoot projectiles. And it was just built in like vanilla JavaScript inside a Webflow project. And someone had mentioned it, and they were saying that they actually wanted to change the icon to like an image like for their client. So it was like their client logo was like shooting all the projectiles. And I was like, oh, this is so much fun. And I edited all the code and sent it back to them, and they post on the site. And then like a day later, they messaged me back and they're like, hey, you changed the wrong icon. It's actually, you changed all the projectiles to the client. So we're actually shooting down the client. And I was like, oh. But yeah, so that was it was a funny little fix, but yeah, it was really fun. It was definitely a lot of cool conversations going on in the community. And like I said, I really love like what Keegan's doing with his course. Can't wait till he's putting out like new modules all the time. So actually I have to jump into the new one. The new one is like all about await and async, if you ever wondered what that actually means in functions and stuff. So
very cool. So I'm gonna shift gears here because man, we can talk for a long time. But as far as you played baseball for a long time.
Yeah.
So how did that shape things, I guess, in your life? Because
I
did it.
Yeah, it definitely did. Actually, I don't think I really talked about this with most of my like Webflow friends, but I played baseball for like over half my life, from when I was 4 until I was almost 20, and like from the age of 10 on, I started becoming like really competitive, and then like 16, 17, 18, it became like really, really competitive, and to the point where it's like training every day. Like I live in Canada, so it's freaking cold in the winter, but we would still show up on Sunday morning in like a golf dome in January wearing like Under Armour and hoping it was heated enough so we could get some practice in. And I think it really affected my I don't know if it's my work ethic. I don't know what to call it. It's like my mentality of, we always used to, or my dad always used to say it, but it'd be like, go hard or go home, right? And it was like, if you're gonna do something, do it, right? Like, don't half-ass it. Just full ass it. Like, go at it and really like give it everything you got. And it makes you really, like, if you're gonna do something, it's because you're passionate enough about it to like go the full mile, right? Like, and I feel like that translates into, a lot of passion that everybody else can see in whatever you're doing. Shows like you're really interested in it. You did it because you wanted to. So yeah, I really think that real, like, baseball, it's been, a couple years now since I played like competitively, but it was such a big part of my life for so long that it's all those traits and that all stuck with me, except for the waking up early. That definitely didn't stick with me.
The waking up early.
That didn't stick with me.
This is a good segue because so people who don't know, you have quite a few hobbies, but I just want to show two examples of like what you're talking about here, because you're into astrophotography.
Yeah.
So I mean, this looks like this is professional grade stuff. Like, you don't, like, literally you do not half-ass anything.
No.
So yeah. What is this?
So yeah, so this is actually the Milky Way, which is, we're in the Milky Way, and it's pretty cool if you can ever get somewhere dark enough to see it. But it's like, this really long plane that kind of spans the majority of the night sky, and we're actually like, we're in the center of it, but we're in it. And this was actually a picture taken when my wife and I were camping, and I told her, I was like, it's gonna be clear tonight, so we're gonna get up at like 11:30 from what, like, we went hiking all day, we came back, we went to sleep. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna set an alarm for 11:30, and it's like AM, no PM, and we're gonna get up and we're gonna go sit in the dark on the beach for like 4 or 5 hours, excuse me, and take a bunch of pictures, because it's usually not just one picture that you take when you do astrophotography. Like, all the stars and all this, like, the clouds and the nebulosity, it's usually like, it's so dim that what you do is you take a bunch of pictures, and each picture might expose for 10, 20 seconds, and then you stack them all together. So this isn't actually one picture. This is like, it's like 400 pictures taken over the course of like 3 hours on a beach in the pitch black, because you can't have any light, otherwise you end up ruining the picture. So we're just like sitting there in the pitch black taking pictures, 3 hours north of Toronto, out in the middle of nowhere. And a funny story too, when I started astrophotography, I used to think I was going to be bored sitting out there, so I used to download like movies to go watch, like, while I was just sitting there. I'd set up my camera, do all the computer stuff, and then open up, watch a movie on my phone. And I really love horror movies, and so I would download these horror movies, and it's probably the worst thing you can do is sit in the forest in the middle of the night watching horror movies. Like, I do not recommend that to anybody. I think the first time I went out, I lasted 20 minutes before I got so scared I packed up my stuff and drove home. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I learned my lesson there, and now I just sit and enjoy the peace and quiet that is, night.
And here's another example. You're into leather work as well.
Yeah.
And like, the craftsmanship on this is insane.
This was probably my favorite piece I ever made. It was actually a belt I wore for my wedding. And it was a padded, so you can see like the kind of the raised center there. So it's like a padded python belt, and it's got like the cool little keeper, and it's got my logo stamped on it. And it's actually like hand stitched. So, this probably took 12 hours of just painstakingly stitching the holes one at a time. If anybody knows like leatherwork, it's a pain in the butt. But yeah, I really enjoyed leatherwork, and yeah, just it's it's tangible, right? It's something you can make, and then you can go and look, I made this, right? So yeah, but yeah, it was the same thing with leather. It was like, hey, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, right? Like,
And so, I mean, sitting out in the dark with your wife has a ton of patience. Like as far as like this kind of like, I can't imagine my husband like, we're gonna go sit on the beach for 4 hours and watch the sky. How is that collaboration with your wife? Because you work with her on projects as well and stuff like that. How is that all?
She definitely has like endless patience for me, and it's something like I'm very grateful for because we do work together. She's like an amazing designer, and even like at our last agency, she was senior designer. I was lead developer, and we would work together on a lot of projects. It was really cool. And it's funny because we can be a lot more like casual with each other, like even in a professional setting, because obviously like we're married now. But it was always funny because it'd be like, I would get the Figma file, and then instead of the usual pushback that I can give, she would sit there and be like, "No, you can do it. You can do it, right?" And like, "No, that's not possible. But you can figure it out. I believe in you." and we would get to the end of the project, and we usually sit there going over it with a fine-tooth comb, and sometimes that's a little tense because no one ever likes getting a bunch of feedback. But she actually sits right beside me, so it's like a nonstop kind of process. But yeah, we worked together since back in my first freelance company. She was working with me there, and we still collaborate on projects all the time now. We did a website for Charmin, like the toilet paper. We just did a website for, they do like a fashion show a couple times a year or once a year, I'm not sure, in support of like breast cancer. So we did like a digital program for their fashion show recently. And yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun working with her. She definitely has a lot of patience for me that I appreciate. But she's like oh, not Charmin, Cashmere. That's what it was. Not Charmin. My bad. She's like checking me right now. She's my fact checker. But yeah, she always keeps me accountable to it, and I think it's like it comes out of, I always say it comes out of like love and respect that you're nitpicking all the little details. So I just gotta like roll with the feedback.
I feel like with the amount of skill set and talent that you have in your household, that if you and your wife started a studio, it would be pretty unstoppable.
It's a goal. After we worked together originally, we always said we wanted to work on, like, we wanted to have another studio together, like after because we both had some more adult like jobs since then. And we always said that like when we were working at the last agency together, we when we were leaving, we were like, hey, we want to do something together, right? Like we were working really hard. Like if anybody's worked in-house at an agency, like it's really fast paced. You got to be on your ball, got to be on the ball. And we're like, hey, like let's put this work ethic into something that we can do together. So it's still like, it's gonna happen. It's in the works. She's just so busy though, because everyone loves her work. So I'm like, can you help me design something? Yeah, let me pencil you in for a month from now. I don't know.
Prioritizing is definitely the trickiest thing.
Yeah.
Patrick, we did not see your bird today.
Yeah,
or hear your bird.
he's being really polite. Actually, I think he knows I'm in a meeting, so I don't even know if I can like try to grab him. I don't know. He's a little sleepy, so here he is. This is my bird.
There he is. Look at that. He's beautiful. And what's his name?
His name is Flash.
Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely been very
not
quiet.
Muse.
No, definitely not Muse.
Good one. I had a week off, so my brain is all rested. I'm ready. But I would say, so I think we're in QA now. So I'm just gonna start with because you took some time off and you just have this crazy momentum right now. You have all these things going. I think we're kind of all excited to see where that's all leading. So this is a bit of a like a Jack Ridley one, but where do you see all of this going? Like what's coming up for you? What can we expect?
So I can't talk about it yet. I talked to the team I'm working on it with, and they were like, no, it's not ready to talk about yet. But I am working on like a product, and it's gonna be cool. That's all I can say. It's gonna be a product. It's gonna be, you can use it in Webflow, you can use it outside of Webflow. Oh, it's like, multifaceted there. But yeah, I'm working on that product. I'm working on like some collaborations for a lot of people, like, looking to move into, products and applications and stuff. And I think like a lot of Webflow developers, especially, they kind of realize that agency models and design subscriptions and stuff like that, it's like, it's doable, right? But it's hard to sustain. So a lot of people want to move into offering like products and services that they can productize and resell, kind of thing. And I'm like super excited about that, because I super excited to like jump in and collaborate on all these ideas and like bring them to life, right? Like if they base in Webflow, and then we want to add in a bunch of code and do some crazy things and host a server somewhere, and I'm like, let's do it, right? Like let's get it, and let's make this happen. So yeah, I'm working on some products. I'm definitely looking to get like into more freelancing a lot more this year. Get back into a lot of the Webflow development as well, like not just code development, like more development, and hopefully more learning. Like I always love the opportunity to learn some more. So we just keep that ball rolling and collaborate with awesome people in the space and build some awesome stuff.
So I guess we should put it out to the audience also. If they have any questions, now's a good time to pop them in the chat, and then we can ask Patrick.
I also brought out some Pokemon cards, because I know.
Oh right, I was supposed to ask about your
Pokemon.
Pokemon collection.
I teased that on Twitter. So just if we're waiting for questions, I'll just show really quick. So this is my vault of
my gosh,
my Pokemon cards in there, and it was like
he couldn't just have 3, right?
No. Like I brought out.
So
No. I have
Andy's got a Pokemon question.
Okay, favorite Gen 1 Pokemon. 100% Gengar right here. Oh, yeah, Gengar. Hold on, let me see. I don't know where the focus is on my camera. That's Blastoise. Where we got here? Oh yeah, here, Gengar. Where's the focus? There's the focus.
Oh, there it is.
They're like double sleeved, because I have like the whole first base set, but they're kind of like valuable now. So they're protected. They're under heavy protection, because at some point it's going to be my retirement fund.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's retirement right there.
But yeah, so I brought out, so I got the Gengar out, and then I got like the starter Pokemon. You got like, I lost my focus. Oh, there we are. You got the Blastoise and Charizard and Venusaur, and then people like these ones too. So then here's like, the birds. We got Flareon and not Flareon, Moltres and Articuno and Zapdos. So all my cards. I don't know. I don't play with them as much anymore, because now I discovered they're valuable. So now they stay in the retirement fund. Yeah. Now they stay in the waterproof, fireproof case, double sleeved, and protection.
So how many do you have altogether?
I have the original like 150, all pretty good condition, and then I also have the set that came right after. Was called the Team Rocket set, and so it's like dark Pokemon, and so I have that entire set too, and that was only I think 80, but those are all like mint condition and first edition, so those are like those are like my really valuable ones. So yeah, probably around like 200, 250 cards. It's not like a crazy big collection. I pared it down to just stuff I could fit in the case, but I hope I kept all the really valuable ones.
Andy does have a
It's
question
not dying
for
because
you.
it's still going strong right now. Like
Mhm.
it's getting like the new generations. It's still going. My
Mhm.
kid's getting into it too.
Oh, I
If
love
she
it.
gets cards, I'll have to tell her to keep them forever for sure.
Mhm.
So Andy's
100%.
got a question. Tip for someone moving from WordPress to Webflow.
Don't overthink it. A lot of the add-ons that you need in a WordPress project, like, you know, you might not need in Webflow, right? Like the whole point of Webflow is it's very semantic, it's very clean. Like build it clean, right? You don't need to. Oh, what's that? Yoast, the SEO
Mm.
plugin. You
Yeah.
don't need that. Just, you know, have proper, you know, page tags and
Yeah.
information on the page, and have good content. And, you know, just make sure you're building it really clean, and you use the platform, you know, as it's meant for, right? Like use it to build performant, clean, good sites.
And Stay Balanced has one here as well. Need to get faster with Webflow and don't want to be bothered with designing first. What suggestions would you have for practicing a layout without designing?
That's tricky. I always typically like build off of a design, because I find that when I don't build off a design, I don't have a page plan. But I would say then, I guess, okay, so maybe I just answered the question there. Make a lo-fi like mockup, right? Like a low fidelity mockup. You don't need to have all of your elements in place. You don't need to have all the copy in place, but at least plan out the blocks that are going to go on the page, right? Like a well-structured web page in general will have a clear flow of data. So if you know, like, your headings are going to go there and you want to structure them with a button, and like lay kind of that out, you know, it doesn't even have to be in Figma. Use Paint, draw a bunch of squares and put titles in them. But just have some kind of plan going into it. And then you can definitely finesse the design some more in Webflow with, you know, CSS and stuff.
And Adam's
Or
new
even
here,
like
but this is sorry, Maggie, go ahead.
well, if it's just for development practice, one good way too is to rebuild existing websites that have like animation or some complexity to it, and
100%.
yeah, and like practice that.
Yeah, 100%. You can because you can immediately see, like, you know, all the properties and all the work that goes into something when you try to rebuild it, right?
And
Oh, that's
Corey's
another
got
great one.
a
Yeah,
great
get
one
sample
for
designs.
get sample designs from free Figma community files or just inspiration from posts on sites like Dribble Awards, etc. So some
100%.
awesome community feedback there. I was going to say that Adam's his first time with us, but it's a great segue because Patrick, he'd be interested in collaborating with you. And so how can you reach out? And so I guess that's a perfect opportunity of you telling us how the best way to get a hold of you is.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, probably the best way to get a hold of me is on Twitter there at Corsetti Dev. I just launched a personal website like 10 minutes ago because Jeremy asked me for a link to it like earlier this week, and I thought it was really funny that I was falling into like this cliche of you know, web developers that don't have a website. So I put up a cool little website that I'm gonna keep building on. But yeah, if you want to reach out to me at on Twitter at Corsetti Dev, you can connect me on LinkedIn, Patrick Corsetti. You can send me an email, patrick@corsetti.dev, all kinds of stuff.
I like the branding is like
NoCode
straight
Club.
across the board, right?
Oh yeah, and yeah, there's there's consistent branding. Thank you very much, Jeremy. But there's also the NoCode Club. You can connect with me there. You can join the NoCode North Slack community because it's awesome in here, and yeah, and you can connect with me through there. I'm in a lot of places.
Excellent.
And we're glad you are.
Yes.
We really appreciate having had this chance to get to know you today, but also all the times that we've had chances to get to know you over the last couple of years. You've been a wonderful member of the community, and we're really happy to spend more time with you. So.
Oh,
but
thank you very
that
much.
brings us to the end of our 15th Northern Showcase. We've been at this for over 2 years, you guys. We'd like to thank you all for joining us and remind you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Watch for our next Northern Showcase coming up in April. And join us next Friday, March 22nd for Show and Tell. We're going to be streaming, and anybody who'd like to show anything, please let us know. Go to our No Code North, sign up for our email, and you'll get information next week on how to sign up for No Show and Tell. And otherwise, Maggie, take it away. Oh, you're muted. Maggie, you're muted. Oh, hang on.
Yes, I was. Sorry, I'm not at home, and it's a little just technical things. Yeah, so you get to, and you also get to hang out at our Gather Live, which is nerdy but very cool, we think. Anyways, and you can visit our website at knowcodenorth.com for more information, and sign up for our mailing list to receive all of our latest updates. You can also follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Join us on Fridays in the lodge, our cool gather space. Our lodge hangouts are open to everyone. And until next time, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.